pat down, doing a search because you're manipulating the object.
He's manipulating it.
Correct. John Morgan's team gets a point. Bonus question to the group. What is the seminal case on what he's calling the plain field doctrine? Does anybody know that? Ann Harris. Point.
Yeah.
Minnesota versus Dickerson. Okay. All right, everybody see that? The students? You may not see me, but I'm manipulating his pockets. That's not
Holy thing.
I saw her smile.
I can tell you some stories
He's
about
like
that.
consenting to me.
All right. What is the purpose for the students? What is the purpose for a Terry frisk? Any student?
Great student.
Officer safety. Okay. It's what goes outside the scope. Cindy, question.
Manipulating pockets, you can't take anything out of any earclosed container.
Well, that's true. The Terry frisk is not allowed for the search for evidence. Okay, that's where you go out of bounds. It's purely for officer safety. And I'll tell you this: the judges give officers some deference here, but there comes a point when it's as obvious they just want to search. It has nothing to do with officer safety. You know, I respect. You know, the officers want to be safe, and there's a definite place for that, and judges respect that. But at some point, they just want to search you, and most of the judges get that. They understand that. All right. So, we've got a plain field, what they call a plain field violation, okay? Now, Mr. Kimberly, you might just get your legs just out a little bit more here. Now, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable here. I don't really know what's in you. I really don't know what's in your pocket. Do you mind if I go into your pockets and retrieve what's in your pocket? All right. Anybody see a problem there?
It does not feel like a weapon or contraband.
Okay. You're right. But he's consented to me going into his pocket, so what's the problem?
Just a point, I've got 15 minutes since you asked him to get out of the car and look at it. So we are getting into the prolonged.
I won't count that against you, but that's not the right answer. Steve.
You were just about riding him piggyback. I call that a coerced consent.
Woodman has scored a point for this team. That is something that I've been arguing for 10 years to judges. And a question for the group: what is the litmus test of whether a consent is coerced? What is the guideline, the threshold? What do the courts say is the litmus test? Trina. Point, Trina. That's right. It's the reasonable man test. It's not whether the officer was mean or the officer was, yelling or whatever. It's whether a reasonable person, in this case Mr. Kimberly, as I'm on top of him with his body all spread out, could he look at me? Did you see his reaction? Yes. I mean, who in the world could reasonably say, no, officer, you can't go into my pockets when they're right on top of you? That's not a voluntary consent. That's a consent made under duress. Okay? Okay? And so Trina is right. Now, I will be candid with you. I've made this argument a lot. I've only had one or two judges that have gone along with it. Some judges, unfortunately, feel like, well, the officer wasn't yelling, he didn't pull his gun on you. I mean, they go into all this. If you say yes, that's consent with some judges. But that's not the law. And I think there's some newer cases that have come out that are cited in your package that will help move this along. Okay? All right. Any questions before we move away from that?
I'm not quite sure you wouldn't have a problem with that being arrest. I'll just play devil's advocate and throw that out there. I don't know if you're going to win all the time on that being arrest.
Well, as a matter of fact, I've lost more than I've won, so
I'm
you're
just
right.
telling you, I mean, that's the problem. That's a crucial, I'm not looking for points, but I mean, standing make an armor standing behind him at 2 o'clock, he could go the other way too. I mean, I've seen a lot worse duress.
Well, again, Tim, what reasonable person, what accountant in Ackworth or nurse in Mableton is going to be able to all spread out with an officer on top of them, look and said, no, you can't go into my pockets. To me, that's the test. So, but the reality is what you just said. You know. Okay, let's move on to the next scenario. Anybody have any questions about that before we move on?
I got a quick question, actually. For the reasonable person situation, do the courts usually take into consideration the individual way? I've seen it both ways, where the court will say a reasonable person in that person's situation, or a reasonable person in that situation, where they take the person's issue. We're talking young black male teenager, or are we talking like Kimberly? Two different things.
The answer to your question is, I think it covers both, because if you look at the consent cases, they say among the factors to be considered are age, you know, so that plays into it. But you also have this general argument, and I think when judges, there is nobody in this courtroom right now that can honestly say this officer did. You have the gumption to say no. I mean, and if the answer to that is, yeah, I agree with that, nobody would ever say no, then to me, legally, that's not consent. That's my argument. Okay? Now, let's move on to the...
And it's because of the proximity of the officer.
Yeah,
and
the physical touching.
Touching.
And that's an element too, Bob. I'm glad you brought that up. The physical touching of the officer, the fact that he's, you know, leaning on you, and I mean, you know, he's accusing you basically of doing something wrong.
So it might be okay if the officer just is in front of you and you don't have him spread out, and he says, hey, can I check this out?
Exactly. That's a lot more less intrusive. You're right, Bob. And that's my that's right.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Talk about the voluntariness of the consent.
Right. Yeah. It's got to be, you know, free of any express or implied duress or coercion. No, you don't get much coercion, but you get plenty of duress.
Yeah. What about the time factor? Now you've been here 20 minutes and he's consented. Wouldn't that be a illegal detention? And the consent would be a product of the illegal detention?
You're getting into an additional argument, basically, Al, that this is just going on too long. And
That's a good question, Steve, real quick. Does in the argument, does the prolonged stop when he does that conduct help the argument as the totality of, like,
a little bit.
yeah, there's questioning, and then he's in the car, and he's out for the tail light,
But I'll say this much.
or asking a bunch of times.
On this scenario, there's nothing wrong with an officer, per se, asking for consent to pat down. The case law says they can do that. That's not considered a jump into unlawful area. They can ask for your permission to search your car. So, you know, that's all fine and dandy. It's just the manner in which it was handled, the way it was executed. Remember, 17-530, warrantless arrest. How it was executed. Okay.
But the reasonableness on time was, last time I looked at it, I think 15 minutes they're gonna get. Once they get over 20, it gets questionable, and you look at the totality of whether it was reasonable from the officer's perspective as to what they were doing, or whether he unreasonably delayed the encounter so that it became a non-consensual, essentially,
Talk louder.
We don't have this particular role play scenario, but in the package, we talk about prolonging traffic stops and what Rick's talking about. There's a good order in there that Kenny Croy and Bobby New won in Judge Krieger's courtroom involving Officer Leone and Viper back in their heyday, where Judge Krieger ruled that 20-minute delay on the K-9 unit was too long. And that's in your package. John Greco and I had the same thing with Judge Schuster. Judge Schuster and Judge Schuster's case went up to the Court of Appeals. And that's in your package of information.
generally they're gonna get 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If it gets over 20, you start getting on.
While we're on that subject, I want to tell you a real quick story. I was in front of a Superior Court judge. I was actually Judge Green, and I had that issue. I refer to the officer in those situations. He has a mission to do, the traffic stop mission, which is he gets licensed, he can do a warrant check, he can ask for consent to search, you know, write the ticket. All that stuff is within the mission of the pullover. Why pull him over in the first place? And what he can't do is have an unreasonable, prolonged delay without any independent justification. Okay? So, and remember, mere nervousness is insufficient as a matter of law. It's important for you law school people remember. Mere nervousness is insufficient as a matter of law to provide articulable suspicion of probable cause. Now, I forgot what I was going to say, but no, this is why I was going to tell you a story about Judge Green's case. So, it was Viper again. This time it was Officer Turman. And they had a littering ticket. It took them 27 minutes to pull a guy over for littering until the canine unit got there. 27 minutes, okay? And it actually took the canine unit about 15 minutes. The stop itself was 27 minutes, but the time from which he called was like 13 or 14 minutes. But he had 13 or 14 minutes to write a littering citation. And I said to Judge Green, I said, Judge Green, who takes 13 minutes to write a littering citation? This is what I call stalling. There's a term in wrestling. If you stall, you get a penalty point. I said, Judge, this is the same scenario. There's a case, the Nunley case cited in your brief, your handout. That's what it addresses. When the officer gets off mission and starts getting into a fishing expedition, the courts aren't going to go for that. And Judge Green ultimately said, you know, you make points, Mr. Cook. It took probably longer than it should have, but I'm going to give the officer a benefit of the doubt, and we're going to deny your motion. Which, okay, all right. A day or two after this, I was talking to the officer. Get this, so I'm talking to him, and I told this to Judge Green later on. And I said, yeah, you know, how in the world were y'all? He goes, yeah, we kept looking at our watch, wondering when the canine's going to get there and all this. They were stalling. They were absolutely stalling. And I told this story to Judge Green to point out, you can't always, these guys say these things, but, you know, part of it was I didn't ask the right questions. I should have asked, how many times did you look at your watch waiting on the canine unit? They were stalling, pure and simple. They got away with it. Okay. They can't do that.
You think you would have gotten a truthful answer had you asked the question?
Maybe, maybe not. And the thing about Viper, unfortunately, as you all know, is most of the time they don't have videos. You know, unbelievable. The unit is the most dangerous unit probably out there. Never has videos in the car. Wow, what a surprise. Okay.
How does that happen?
I don't know. Okay, so let's go into a scenario, a casual street encounter, and so everybody in the case that I've included from the City of Marietta Municipal Court, there's a real detailed outline of how you analyze the three types of encounters. The casual encounter, which is Tier 1, brief detention, Tier 2, and full-blown arrest, Tier 3, okay? So we're going to play this scenario of Rick Kimberly, Mr. John Q. Citizen walking down the sidewalk about 6 o'clock in the evening, and I am Mr. Police Officer. So he's walking. Hi, how are you doing today?
Hey, officer. Okay.
Have you got just a few minutes to talk to me about something?
Sure.
Okay. You know, I'm just curious, where are you going? Where are you going right now?
I'm just walking around the square, getting some exercise. I got to
Okay. Well, yeah, that's fine. You need to get some exercise for those kinds of things. By the way, do you have any? Do you mind if I see your identification?
Yeah, I got an idea.
Anybody see a problem yet? Buzz in. Mr. Kimberly, so you live around here?
I live a little ways away, work up here mostly.
Okay. You know, we sometimes have some problems in this area. Do you mind if I just?
I was just gonna say, what's the articulable suspicion of criminal activity for this prolonged whatever?
Well,
whatever?
right now, and I agree with that, but the courts right now, I think, would say we're still in the tier 1 encounter. Okay, I haven't done anything other than casual conversation. Okay.
And I'm not smart enough.
And the
to
courts,
walk
by
off.
the way, Liz, the courts allow you in a tier 1 to ask for ID. And the question I'm about to ask you is, do they allow, Mr. Kimberly, do you mind if I just pat you down for weapons real quick?
Okay, sure.
I disagree. Tier 1, they're still okay. They can ask for consent to pat down if he consents. Okay.
Well, he's free to leave, Steve, because there's no articulable suspicion.
That's right. That's it. You get a point, Tim.
Thank you.
All right. Rick is still, I haven't told him he's under, he's okay. He's consented to a pat down. And I think the officer under the law is still okay here. Okay? So, I'm patting you down. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kimberly. Well, you mind if, would you take your hands out of your pockets just for a second? I get a little nervous when that happens. Thank you.
Did you ask him or tell him?
Told him. Take your hands out of your pockets.
And do it
Judge
now.
Harris.
I think you got it wrong.
Judge Harris gets a point.
We're up.
There is a case actually in the handouts that was argued by a lawyer that I don't know, but it was a